Tom Zavalidroga on the line right now. As we said, he was charged and then ultimately found guilty of reporting that his mother was missing. Authorities say that he actually dropped her off, and there's a whole big story that goes along with it, you might recall. But he did his time, and he's out, and he's on the line right now. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Keeler.
So,
what were you convicted of?
Well, it was making a false statement and reckless
endangerment. Okay.
And
I believe that was in the third degree.
And what was? Yeah. What was your sentence, by the way?
1 year. Yeah, it was rather unexpected. It was also unprecedented, I think, for based on the local sentencing guidelines. Did you
do 6 months, or did you do the full year?
It was almost 8 months.
About 8 months.
And some of that,
Tom, you're cutting out.
Yeah, I wish you could get on a landline because I'm having a hard time hearing you.
You're not in the woods or something right now, are you?
Here?
Yeah, you're breaking up pretty badly. Can you hear me now? Remember that commercial?
Hello?
Yep, I've got you now. Davey, you want to pick up? Because
yeah, let's try to reconnect with him if we could.
Yeah, he's going to have a better connection. I know he called and then disconnected a couple of times. So I don't know. He's done his time.
Yes.
But when he called the other day, he said that he's filing some sort of a case against the federal government.
Right. And
which I'm not sure what
he's got an interesting strategy that he's sticking to. It didn't really work for him in his case before, coming on the air and talking about details of the case.
Right.
But maybe it may work for him in this federal
court.
We'll see.
Okay.
And I will say,
after doing the time, by the way, he did, as he said, he did 8 months of his 1 year sentence.
And the falsely reporting and endangering in the third degree, I would agree with Tom. You often don't see someone sentenced to a year in jail for those convictions, but he did force this to trial, would not plead it down, and the nature of the allegation is that he brought his mother into the woods, left her there. He says it didn't happen, but again, I can understand what you would consider a lengthy jail sentence for something like that because of the nature of it.
Yeah.
Did he not also, I think, fire a couple different public defenders and ultimately defended himself?
Yeah, and also I think he really went after authorities and said that they had made the whole thing up, and I think he might be back on the line right now. That is him on one. Tom, let's give it another try. Good morning.
Okay. Yeah,
yeah, that's better.
Much better. Yeah, much better. Okay, so it sounds like you're on a landline.
Well, not exactly, but
okay.
As the case may be.
Okay.
Yeah, as I was stating, there was an insistence that I take a forced DNA test as part of that sentencing, and this is somewhat unique to New York State. And as a result of my resistance to that, they ended up trying to extend the sentence.
Okay.
So that was somewhat resolved. They ended up forcibly taking DNA. That's an issue that's now in federal courts. The right of a jail or a state to forcibly take DNA from prisoners, but has to do with the law that was enacted about 3 or 4 years ago in New York State, forcing anybody convicted of any crime to submit DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And,
was that to any crime? I thought that was for felonies. That's any crime?
No, actually they had started with that. It was a sort of a slippery slope where they started off with certain felonies, then all felonies, and like 3 or 4 years ago it was all crimes. Basically all offenses. So even the most minor offense now requires forcible DNA samples.
How does it work with and you're challenging that?
On a number of grounds. Religious grounds, even under
I think he's got a point
the
here.
United Nations human rights laws.
Okay.
whether that's legal or not.
Now, how does it work with DWI? So if you...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, DWI is somewhat different in that they're actually, in some cases, they're taking blood samples. Even.
Right. But do they... So if you decide I'm not going to blow...
Right.
Do they have the right to take your blood at that point to test?
Well, there have actually been a few Supreme Court cases as to whether they have a right to forcibly take blood.
Okay.
And in the past, what they've done is taken it on samples on the sly. Where there'd be an accident and they just simply
you got a bloody nose. Sorry.
Right.
Didn't mean to hit you there, but hey, I've got blood all over me here. Let's test it.
Right, and then in some cases there's been some stories of forcible blood taking.
Yeah.
Right at the site. By police.
Yeah.
So that's an issue.
Are you?
I'm a conscientious objector to all of that. Yeah.
Are you at the zoo, Tom?
I hear a bird in the background.
Oh, not exactly. Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
What is that noise?
A bird.
A bird. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Is that your bird?
No.
No.
Nope. Not a pet bird.
Okay.
Nope.
It's just you're outside and ironically out kind of in a wooded area where there's a bird.
Well, I'm just trying to get best connection here.
Good. We have a good connection. I have to tell you.
Right.
The bird is really consuming my attention. I can't lie. I'm
is that
really
a herring or a...
I'm really paying attention to the bird. Okay.
Well,
I'll try not to. I'm going to try to focus. Listen.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, all of this has escalated into a federal case. It's a result of the conditions of my confinement. There's a number of issues involved. Let's see. As a result of my resistance to both TB testing in jail as well as the forcible DNA testing, I was put into solitary confinement for almost 6 months.
Really?
It's basically not allowed. There's actually a constitutional right in New York State for all prisoners to have at least 1 hour of recreation per day, and also right to visitation and some other absolute rights that, under even the most severe circumstances can't be interfered with.
Did you, what jail were you in?
Madison County Jail.
Madison County, okay.
Yeah. And, it basically resulted in, being locked in a cell the size of a large closet for 6 months. So I went in, it was a hot day, and I came out, it was snowing in a blizzard. Oh, and, even terrorism suspects are generally not subjected to that type of thing.
How will you handle this if do you have proof that happened? Because,
Oh, yeah, it's all on record.
Okay.
The jail would freely admit to this. There's multiple records. Actually, things in jail tend to be very well recorded.
Sure.
There's camera recordings constantly.
Because I find this
big on
hard.
records.
I just find it hard to believe that they would put you in in this little...
In the hole.
In
That's
the hole.
what they call it.
Yeah.
It was in the hole for 6 months.
That's
so it's highly
insane.
unusual. Even talking to the other prisoners, people were quite amazed at that. Usually, the conditions I was subjected to are something that somebody would be subjected to after like a fight, and they would put you in a hole like that for maybe 30 days at most. I think the longest I've ever heard in there is maybe like 60 days.
Okay, and you say you were there for 6 months. Is there a chance you just lost track of time? Is that possible?
Well, actually, that's something really you have to make note of. That the days are passing. There was a small window where I could see light, like sunlight, and outside a little bit.
But you had no. How did you keep track of time? Did you put a little?
Well, they do have. They were feeding me meals, so somebody would come in, open the door, and then you'd have a meal. So that would be like a certain time of day.
And you
so
were given.
You could actually keep track of time.
Okay.
And also by shadowing outside, you could actually tell.
The time.
You have a sense of time passing and the days passing. Yeah.
And finally, I would just ask you, boy, this is really, it's amazing that they would, and it was all because you refused to do a test for TB?
Yeah, that was, the sentence was unusually harsh to begin with, but that was, exacerbated by this resistance, my conscientious objection to the testing.
All right.
And, as a retaliation to that, they started to put the screws to me.
What would you say if the people in Madison County were to say, that never happened? We never did that to you.
I don't think there's a dispute at this time that, a factual dispute.
Okay.
I think they freely admit that they did it. And they were warned about the I repeatedly warned them about the constitutional violations. There was also issues of rampant strip searching, both of male and female prisoners in that jail. That's also going to be a major issue.
Tom, have you hired a lawyer?
Yeah. No, I'm doing it all pro se.
Will you hire a lawyer? You should hire.
You will have a case.
You should hire a lawyer. And you know what? If you don't have the money right now, if you were to get a settlement, they will work for a percentage of a future settlement.
I agree.
Hire a lawyer.
I agree with these guys.
I've been through all that. This is many years of litigation, with a number of different cases here. And a lot of attorneys now are very reluctant to take on
take you on
a case of on that.
Yeah.
I should say on those terms.
Yeah. I do want to say though that again, what do you say when they say, "Boy, Tom, you've concocted a lot of stories that we believe are not true," and this is just another one of those stories? How do you respond to them when they say that?
Well, as I say, things are fairly well recorded in a jail.
Right.
There have been other cases similar to the case I'm taking now. A lot of prisoners have brought cases into the federal courts. So very rarely would there be a serious factual dispute.
Okay.
As in this case, whether I was there for 6 months or whether it was
sure.
5.5 months or something of that sort.
And then there
might be some minor factual disputes, but eventually it comes out. The truth, even in prison, it comes out.
Even when you're in jail. I am curious.
Oh, yeah.
I am curious about the DNA issue. Can they take your DNA without your consent? I've
already done very extensive research on this, even while I was in jail.
Because they take your thumbprint. You can get. That's something, right?
This issue has actually reached the U.S. Supreme Court. It was 2013, I believe, as to whether they could take DNA in a felony case.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was.
Right, that's my question.
Never,
felony,
never reached the Supreme Court with regard to misdemeanor offenses or all crimes.
Okay, got it.
So the next step here is that they're going to be asking for DNA samples for a driver's license. So, that's the issue. This has gone.
All these things are always done to protect you, by the way. It's in case you're ever lost, we'll be able to find you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like everything else. It's for your protection.
Right. All right, Tom, I'm out of time, but interesting. I want to look more into this, and we'll reach out to the Madison County authorities and see what they're willing to say.
Right. Well, at this point, it's into the federal courts.
Okay.
I'm also taking a unique stand, bringing in the United Nations human rights law, which is somewhat unique, and whether a private individual in the United States has a right to use the UN laws to in a private right of action against government.
All right. Going to be interesting.
That's going to be a unique situation.
Still think you should hire an attorney, but
yes.
But we're currently working on it.
Okay. All right, Tom. Good luck, and good luck.
Yes, I'll need it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Call me crazy.
At least he's saying that he'll need good luck.
Call me crazy. I think there's something actually to
the DNA thing is. I'm really curious about it. I'd love to get somebody on tomorrow to what are the laws. So based on a misdemeanor versus a felony, can they forcibly take your DNA? And if you end up in jail, can they force you to do a tuberculosis test? And if not, can they put you in what do we call it? The hole.
The hole.
For 6 months. He was able to keep track
Andy
of time
Dufresne
by the
at
shadowing.
Shawshank didn't even do 6 months.
I'm telling you.